This podcast is sponsored by FortuneFavours.ie. FortuneFavours.ie is a home workout equipment store and your one-stop shop for all home gym equipment. They are well known for their adjustable dumbbells, which combine 15 different weights in one dumbbell. They have both 24 kg and 40 kg adjustable dumbbells. Check the link in the bio of this episode for more information. So welcome back to another preview on the GAA Statsman podcast, and here with me for week 2 is Aaron Maher from GAA Fan TV. Of course, he was on previous episodes of the podcast, so you might recognise him. And you might recognise his voice for those listening on Spotify or Apple, and you might recognise his face looking on YouTube. I suppose, first of all, Aaron, how you been over the past few days? It's been a bit of a rollercoaster ride for Dublin GAA. The hurlers are on and up after winning the O'Byrne or the Walsh Cup, and the footballers, a disappointing performance against Armagh.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Like, usually if you're in conversations with Dublin fans, all the optimism would be around the footballers, and then no one really would speak too much about the hurlers because it was kind of just like, well, if they do well, it's a bonus and it's a positive, but we're not really thinking too much about them. Whereas now it's no one wants to speak about the footballers and everyone wants to speak about the hurlers. It's almost completely flip-flopped from a few years ago when it looked like Dublin hurling was maybe in a bit of a bad place and the footballers were just winning everything. So it's crazy how quickly things can change. But yeah, look, I'm doing good anyways. Like, I'm not doing too bad. And, you know, it was the first game of the league. It was a heavy defeat to Armagh, and it was definitely well deserved from Armagh. They were by far the better team. But yeah, looking forward to the game against Kerry this weekend and the game against Mayo. Having seen Kerry against Kildare, it definitely gave me a little bit more confidence that maybe Dublin could turn Kerry over. But then again, it is in Tralee, but at the same time, it's weird. Like, I don't know if I think there's more pressure on Kerry going into this game rather than Dublin, because I think, you know, a lot of those Kerry players haven't beaten Dublin yet. Like, really, I don't think they've beaten Dublin since the league in 2019, I think it was, maybe, or 2018. So, you know, a bit of a weight there for Kerry, and probably more pressure on Jack O'Connor as well, because at least Desi has won an All-Ireland, where obviously Jack O'Connor won All-Irelands in the past with Kerry, but yeah, it should make for an interesting game anyways, and I suppose excited to run through it all.
Absolutely, and I suppose what better place to start than the Saturday night lights in Tralee between Kerry and Dublin. Like, both sides off the back of disappointing results. Kerry going to Newbridge and drawing. Jack O'Connor didn't get a happy return there, I'd imagine, and Dublin, of course, losing to Armagh, and Armagh were much the superior side in Croke Park. So you think Kerry are under much more pressure?
Yeah, I think so, to be honest. Well, like, Dublin are always under pressure. Like, the pressure never really changes. But I think the fact that this is away in Tralee, like, obviously if Dublin were to lose, you know, we're very much fixed in a relegation battle. Maybe if we go and win, then all of a sudden we're looking at the complete opposite and maybe looking towards a league. So I don't know. Like, I don't really think, like, if Dublin are to be in a relegation battle or are to get relegated, I don't think this defeat is what would determine it. I think it would be maybe losing to a Kildare or possibly a Monaghan further down the line. So, like, there's always pressure on the Dubs, but I think with Kerry and Jack O'Connor in particular, I think there is a bit more maybe pressure on them, because a lot of people are looking at them as the All-Ireland favourites and the team that is eventually going to finally break through with David Clifford and finally go on to maybe dominate the All-Ireland picture, whereas Dublin have really had their day, they've had their moment. So, and not to say that Dublin won't get there again, but I just think, I think on this particular occasion, would it be in Tralee as well, I think there'd maybe be a bit more scrutiny on Kerry if they were to lose this game, given what Armagh done to Dublin a week previous, and given the forwards that Kerry have. Like, you know, they really should split Dublin open here completely, like, defensively, given how poor Dublin were last week. But it'll be intriguing, it'll be interesting, because I'm sure Desi is going to lay into the troops, and I'm sure he's going to want a response. And Dublin do have a habit of turning up in games against Kerry, so in recent seasons anyway. So we'll see what happens anyway, and definitely excited for it.
And interesting enough, you talked about Kerry's forwards, that they should have enough to beat Dublin on this occasion. And even I was looking over the Sigerson Cup. Obviously, this is happening this week as well. MTU Kerry are involved. They've recently beat Mayo at the time of this recording. and UL are on tomorrow night with the likes of David Clifford in that team. So there's a lot of them forwards involved in the Sickerson Cup, and Dublin maybe not so they'll be training during the week. Will that play much of a factor?
Yeah, it definitely could play a factor, all right. But we've seen Jack O'Connor, he doesn't really show much mercy in terms of playing players. Like, he played Tony Brosnan and twice in the one day. So it doesn't really make much let up to him. And actually, funny enough, like in the Kildare game in the final 10 to 15 minutes, I actually thought Kerry looks very leggy and tired and dead on their feet. So I don't know. Like, I think it would be risky doing that, in all honesty. But I think it'll be interesting to see if Mick Fitzsimons or maybe Johnny Cooper come back in there. I'm not too sure where they were last weekend. I don't think it was an injury, to be perfectly honest. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. So yeah, plenty of work to do from a Dublin point of view. And like, Dublin usually are very good defensively. Like against Mayo, even I thought they were good defensively, even when they lost. Like it was going forward really that was the problem. So like, if they can just get back to the basics in terms of, I don't know, like not playing so high up the pitch like they did against Armagh. It was very strange because like Aidan Nugent floats that long ball in there, and obviously Davy Byrne has to commit it, and you wouldn't fault Davy Byrne for that. But Rian O'Neill has like 20 yards of open space. It was just, you were wondering where the other defenders were. So yeah, I think just having a proper game plan really for this game will work, because in the Armagh game, it didn't really seem like much of a game plan. It just kind of felt like show up, turn up, and sure, we should have enough quality in our forwards to just grind out a victory without being anywhere near our best. So hopefully there's a proper game plan for this one, and yeah, should be interesting.
And I suppose you talked about the lack of attacking talent in the Mayo game last year, and you played much more attacking without a real plan against Armagh on Saturday night. But certain guy came on, Larkin O'Daly, he scored 1-1. Would you expect him to start against Kerry maybe?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, I probably would, to be fair. Like Dean Rock, who came on, like I don't know what it's been with Dean Rock in the last couple of seasons, but he always seems to take his time coming back in the league. And I don't know if he maybe carries niggles and injuries, and there's a risk there of maybe something going or something like that. And they're just risk him in the championship, because I suppose it's all or nothing really then. But yeah, Larkin O'Dell could definitely start. Came on, I think he scored 1-1. He was very impressive. Obviously, Costello's injured, and Aaron Burns going to be injured potentially as well. From what I've heard, Con O'Callaghan isn't going to be back in there this weekend. So there is an opportunity there for someone like a Larkin O'Dell to start. And you know, why not? Why not give him a go? Like against Kerry, like this would be the perfect time really to deliver and show up. And you know, he might be maybe that option coming off the bench that maybe we haven't had in previous seasons. And actually, like, it's kind of funny, it was actually the bench that changed the game against well, not changed the game against Armagh, but like the bench who came on actually made a bit of an impact with Cameron McCormick as well. So yeah, I'd probably give him a go. Like, start him, why not? It is the league, and give him an opportunity to play in Tralee. Like, no better place to play and learn your trade.
I suppose the Dublin under-20s reached two under-20 finals in a row in 2019, 2020. Obviously, they lost to Cork and they lost to Galway, but still, there's a good crop of young players there. Kieran Archer being one, Larkin O'Dell, Lee Gannon, in fairness, played the other night against Armagh, Ross McGarry there as well. Would you expect more of them to be involved, or would you to replace the older guards who you say are missing for one reason or another?
Yeah, I don't see why not. They should maybe play the odd game here and there, and even I liked what Desi done in the O'Byrne Cup, to be fair, where he'd play like a couple of the under-20 players and then mix them in with some of the experienced players like Kieran Kilkenny or Cormac Costello or Fenton. So yeah, I think that would be something that Dublin should do. Obviously, they need to be careful at the same time, because we were beaten by Armagh, and if we were to be turned over by Kerry, then it's Mayo next week. All of a sudden, you're 3 defeats, and Kildare would probably fancy a goal just a week later. So all of a sudden, you know, we can't really risk going down to Division 2. Like, it'd just be a bit of a disaster, really. So I do think Desi would probably need to be careful, but I don't see why he shouldn't play maybe one or two here or there, like Ross McGarry or Larkin O'Dell or even Cameron McCormick as well. Doesn't seem to fancy Kieran Archer for whatever reason. Doesn't really seem to be getting in the. I know he played in an O'Byrne Cup game, but Don't even think he was on the bench against Armagh. So a little bit odd with what's happening there. I know he's involved in Sigerson Cup football, so maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, like I don't see why not. Try them, give them a go, and especially if Dean Rock isn't maybe up to full fitness and Con O'Callaghan isn't back, why not give them a go? Because we were pretty toothless going forward at times in the Armagh game, and when Lorcan O'Dell and McCormick came on, they made a big impact. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have them in there.
I suppose for Kerry, they have injury troubles of their own. David Ward still, I don't know when he's going to come back. Stefano Cumber got a dislocated shoulder as well. So it looks like he'll be out for a pretty long time, which is a huge loss for them. Do you think that's an opportunity for Dublin to potentially go down to Tralee and shock Kerry a bit?
Yeah, it could be, because their midfield against Kildare looked really weak. Like they had no control in midfield whatsoever. Like Kevin Flynn bullied them in there. Like they had Sean O'Shea in midfield, and he's just not a midfielder. He's not that, he doesn't really have the physical presence to be in there. Like he's more of obviously playing in the number 10 role or half forward line or something like that. Like he still finished with 3 points, but I think majority of them were from place balls. So there is an opportunity there. Like I think Jack Barry might be back in next week from what I've heard of. David Moore, I think, is still injured, and yeah, Stefan Ockenbohr is probably going to be injured as well. So don't know what's going on with Jeremy O'Connor, whether he's going to be back in there, whether he's injured, or what the story is there. But yeah, there is a potential there for Dublin, and I think Fenton, I don't know what it was against Armagh. He was just a little bit, again, he looks like he's struggling in there at times, and maybe it's because he doesn't have a partner in there, and maybe they should go back to Fenton and McCarthy in the midfield. I think if we were to do that, I think, midfield's definitely an area I could see us winning, but it's obviously going to be defensively and going forward that hopefully we get right on the day.
100%. And I suppose, like, if one of these sides lose, especially Dublin, if they get on 0 points, or even Kerry if they get a 1 point, do you think there's any potential danger that any of these two sides could potentially get relegated? Because if a side's on 1 point or 2 or 0 points after 2 games, that looks pretty bad, no matter if you're Dublin or Kerry. Yeah,
like I suppose there could be the potential, especially from a Dublin point of view. I know there'd definitely be a worry there, because we play Mayo a week later in Croke Park, and sure, they beat us only a couple of months ago, so they won't have any fear coming up to us, and they'll probably see that as another big opportunity, maybe to put another sort of nail in the Dublin coffin. And I think after that we play Kildare, who looked very impressive against Kerry, and then Tyrone away. So like there could definitely be a worry from a Dublin point of view that maybe we could get dragged into a potential relegation battle if we're not careful. Like, still think we'd have enough to maybe overcome Monaghan, Kildare, and hopefully get enough there. But seeing how competitive the opening weekend was, with a load of teams finishing with 1 point, obviously drawn, like it really does blow it wide open, and it's going to be interesting to see where teams are, I suppose, at the end of this weekend. Like, even from a Kerry point of view, like they've obviously some tough fixtures in there. I think they've majority of the big teams at home, which will definitely suit them. But they need to be careful. And if they were to have 1 point, 0 wins after 2 games, I don't think many people would have expected that from a team a lot of people are touting as the All-Ireland champions potentially this year. So a lot of pressure for both teams, and I do think whoever loses this game will start to maybe potentially worry that they might be in a bit of trouble.
Just imagine, a 4 teams in Munster in Division 2. Look at Kerry, Limerick, Cork, and Clare. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Especially for fans down here. But I suppose final predictions. Would you be confident as a Dublin fan going into this game, or do you think Kerry will eventually grind you down?
It's hard to know. Like, I think, I don't know. Like, I think we could win the midfield battle, and obviously that could be hugely important. But again, like Armagh, they were kicking long direct balls at times and almost bypassing the midfield, so it sort of wasn't even relevant at times. Like, and I even felt like at times against Armagh we were better around midfield, but it was just we were just struggling to actually break beyond their half back line. So like if Kerry can get that direct ball right into Clifford, into if you've Sean O'Shea in his right position doing the magic work behind, I just don't see really how Dublin can deal with that, especially after how we struggled against Armagh. Like, Armagh have probably got one of the best forwards in the country in Rian O'Neill, but Kerry have probably got 2 or 3 Rian O'Neills realistically in David Clifford, Sean O'Shea, Killian Spillane on his day, Tony Brosnan maybe as well. Paul Gainey looks very good in pre-season. So, and especially with it being in Tralee, I just think the Kerry players are going to be fired up for it. They probably would have seen what happened to Dublin last weekend as well. And they'll probably see this as a massive opportunity to win the game. Like, I am expecting a response from a Dublin point of view, and I don't think we'll play as bad as we did against Armagh, but I just don't quite, especially with the likes of Fitzsimons and Cooper, not expecting to come back this weekend. I just don't, I just think Kerry will probably win this one by 2 or 3 points maybe.
Interesting prediction there. It should be a very fascinating game. And of course, it's live on RT2 for any person listening and wondering where it's on. I suppose the next game, you talk about Armagh beating Dublin, brilliant performance by them. They're playing Tyrone next. The All-Ireland champions are coming to the Athletic Grounds. Like, Armagh will be buoyed by that victory on Saturday night.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they'll be, and they won't have any fear for Tyrone as well. Like, and Monaghan probably should have turned Tyrone over. Like, they had a lot of opportunities that day, a lot of chances. Especially in the first half, and probably could have won the game. So, yeah, like, Tyrone probably not at the same level as they were at last year just yet. I do think they'll probably get to that level later in the year. I think they're probably behind some other teams in terms of fitness, and probably are still waiting on some players to come back into their team at some point in the next couple of games as well. So, yeah, like, I think Armagh is going to be buzzing. I think the Athletic Grounds is going to be buzzing. I think the fans are going to be massively up for it. It's always a tough place to go to, as it is. So yeah, I actually think Armagh will probably turn Tyrone over there because if they can play anything like what they did against Dublin, get that ball into Rian O'Neill, get him involved in the game, Rory Grugan as well, and you still have Conor Turba and Ross McQuillan who could potentially come in as well. So. Like, I do think Armagh will probably rotate at some point because they don't want to go hell for leather throughout the entirety of the league and burn themselves out by the time the championship comes around. But I think they'll see this game as another big opportunity to beat Tyrone when they're not at their best. And yeah, I reckon they'll do it.
There's actually been some predictions, some big calls that Armagh could win the All-Ireland. Like, it's on social media. I've been talking to some people after that performance against Dublin. Do you think that's a realistic game, or do you think back to basics first, win Ulster?
Yeah, I think they need to be like baby steps, obviously. Like, they probably do need to look at Ulster and get into an Ulster final first of all. Like, I think this was the first time they beat either a Dublin, Kerry, a Tyrone, like one of the big teams really in quite a long time, like potentially going back to 2008, 2009, since they beat really one of the big teams that were going for an All-Ireland. So, like, I think the main focus really just has to be on that championship in Ulster, because if they are to lose, I think they play Donegal first up. If they were to lose to Donegal, obviously they go into the qualifiers, and then if they were to come up against, let's say, maybe a Tyrone in the qualifiers and lose that, or come up against a Kildare and potentially lose that, or whoever, maybe a Galway or a Mayo and lose that, then I think, like, Armagh fans will look back at the good memories of the Dublin victory, but at the same time, it won't really be seen as progression. So I think the main focus really should be in that Ulster Championship. But look, they definitely have the quality. There's no doubt about it. In Rian O'Neill and Rory Grugan, like we were saying before, and Jarly O'Byrnes in defence, Aidan Forker. So and the way they play is very exciting. So probably a little bit different to some of the other teams in Ulster that at times can look a little bit boring. So definitely a huge potential and huge opportunity. But I think it'll be interesting to watch them now over the next couple of weeks and see how they get on. But they've definitely arrived at the top table anyway with a win like that.
They definitely have, and it's great to see Armagh at the top table anyway. Like, it's been so long since they've even won Ulster, and that Armagh Tyrone game's live on TG4 or YouTube, I think it is, and GAA Bio, I think it's deferred coverage after the hurling. The next game actually isn't shown live whatsoever, Monaghan against Mayo. And before we get into this game, are you against GAA Go not showing any games? Because certainly I was infuriated by it last week.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't believe it, to be honest, when I heard the news. Like, I was just assuming the games would be on there. Like, and I was I couldn't get my head around it when I went on GAA Go and didn't see the games there. Like, it just, I don't know, like it's baffling really, because like when you think about it, there was so many club games that was streamed on BO Sport throughout the entirety of the year. You could watch the preseason games as well on BO Sport. So I don't really understand why these inter-county games are not being streamed. Like, and I heard that apparently it's because of the rights that TG Cahir and RTE have on the Allianz League, and that's apparently the reason why a lot of the games can't be streamed. But they made it work last year, so I think that's probably a lazy excuse, and it just doesn't really make sense, and it's not really fair, because obviously we were chatting there about Roscommon playing Cork. Like, it's a 3.5-hour journey up and back. It's not feasible really, and I don't know if there were many Cork fans at that game, like especially with the weather conditions as well. It's just, yeah, it's not really fair, I don't think, on a lot of supporters really across the country, like the fact that they can't watch their team. And you think of elderly as well that like won't be able to see their county. So, and you think as well, like for an Allianz League Sunday, like they show Division 3 and Division 4 games for what, 2-3 minutes maybe, or something each division. And like, it's just like we spend all this time trying to restructure the championship and trying to do this and this, but it's not really great promotion for the likes of your Leithrams, your Cavans, your Sligos. And like, if you're a 10 or 11-year-old growing up in those counties, you're not going to see them, like, you know, like, especially if you don't have family that aren't going to the games. So yeah, it's very disappointing. And it's just, yeah, I feel like the GAA have missed the or the TV companies or whoever's involved there have missed a real trick in showing the games, because there was definitely an audience for it and they definitely pay for it. So I'm not too sure what yeah, it's just bizarre really.
It really is bizarre, absolutely. And even the Cork Roscommon thing, I didn't go to it, obviously, and I'd be a passionate Cork fan. I don't think most Cork fans actually went to it, or even I'm thinking of other long journeys now. Sligo to Wexford is another one. Like, imagine Sligo fans going to Wexford. Geez, the amount of cost for either diesel or petrol, and then the tickets at the games as well. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. The GAA should fix it sooner rather than later. But anyway, back to Monaghan and Mayo. Like, Monaghan drew, and Mayo, in fact, drew last weekend as well. Like, this is an interesting game for both sides.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call them anyways, because I feel like if Mayo turn up and play the way they played at the end of the second half, and the way that we know Mayo can play, I could see them winning it comfortably enough. But again, it's one of them things with Mayo where they seem to have this habit of just starting games slow, and it really didn't change against Donegal. Like, it was the same last year against Dublin. It was the same against Galway. Like, they do seem to have this in them where they're very slow out of blocks, and they allow other teams to kind of build up a lead, and then they're fighting back. So it'd be interesting. Like, Monaghan played reasonably okay. Like, it was not a great game really against Tyrone. I don't think any team really played brilliantly, but I suppose with them being at home, like, I'd imagine that would be a huge advantage, and it'd be interesting to see if Conor McManus comes back in. But I'd probably fancy Mayo to get the victory here. I think they definitely have the quality in there. And it was good to see players like Jason Doherty coming back in there as well, and Aidan Orme starting. So yeah, I'd probably fancy Mayo to turn Monaghan over there.
Should be a very interesting game indeed. And of course, it is live, which is absolutely ridiculous. But hopefully the Monaghan and Mayo fans enjoyed the day out in Clonus. And the next game also was alive for some strange reason in Division 1. Donegal against Kildare. Like, Kildare will be buoyed after last weekend. And even Donegal, for those first few minutes against Mayo, Michael Langan performed very well. Michael Murphy obviously coming back into the team. So this also should be a very interesting encounter.
Yeah, it could be. Like, and all of a sudden, if Kildare were to turn over Donegal, like, I think Kildare would probably be good for survival this year, and that would be a huge statement, really. And all of a sudden, it would blow the sort of, you know, because I think a lot of people probably looked at it at the start of the year and thought Kildare, Monaghan, maybe Armagh, Donegal might be the teams that could potentially get sucked into a relegation battle. But if Armagh win this weekend and Kildare were to win as well, you know, one of them two teams is obviously going to play each other at some point further down the line and take points there as well. So it would be a huge statement for Kildare, and they played really well against Kerry. Like, they really showed that bite, really, that I don't think we'd seen in previous seasons. Like, I think they showed a lot of fight and really heart, and Paddy Woodgate coming in there looked like a great addition back into the team, and Daniel Flynn didn't even score but still played brilliantly well. So Yeah, Kildare are looking very, very good. And Donegal, like, it's hard to know with Donegal. Like, they really should have beaten Mayo. Like, they had a penalty with 10 minutes to go. Mayo are down to 14 men. They score it. They're 6 points up. And I'm not too sure why McBrearty took the penalty as well. Like, I would have fancied Michael Murphy to take it, but whether maybe something got to do, maybe he's still carrying a hamstring injury. We don't know. Like, I don't know why he didn't take it, but yeah, it's a tough one really to call, and this might even be a draw, to be honest. With all the draws we've seen last weekend, I suppose it'd be fair enough to predict at least one draw for this weekend. So yeah, I'd probably go with a draw.
A very interesting prediction. All right, two evenly matched sides, in my opinion. I predicted actually both sides to go down at the start of the year. I'm not so sure about Kildare after their miraculous performance against Kerry, but Donegal as well. Michael Langan performed well. Michael Murphy, even he was taking free. So I don't know, was it the hamstring injury or was it a confidence issue after the Tyrone penalty last year in the championship? But only Donegal people know that, I suppose. And moving on into Division 2, and the only live game in Division 2, again, only one live game in Division 2. Ridiculous, I know, but still, it's Down against Galway. It's live on BBC Northern Ireland and GAA Go. Like, Down were a bit disappointing against Derry, but at the same time, like, if Quaylon Mooney takes that goal chance against Derry, they're right back in the game. So maybe it's kind of an overreaction for people to just mark off Down completely.
Yeah, like I watched that game as well yesterday, and like I didn't think Derry were particularly brilliant, or they didn't play anywhere near their absolute best. But then again, like, not on one to Sundays did they ever really look like losing that game. Like, I know Kayla Mooney had that chance, but Derry, like, that was really the only big sort of opportunity, a big moment in the game where you felt like Down were going to do something brilliant. And like, it wasn't dreadful from Down, or maybe like maybe not as bad as what people were making it out to be, because given the fact that they'd so many changes in their team and missing a lot of players who were obviously playing for Kilcoo. But it was a hard one to know, because I don't think Derry were anywhere near their best as well. Like, they didn't play anywhere near their best, and you could tell there's still players like McGuigan and Chrissy McKaig who were obviously playing with the Slot Neil Hurlers a week previous. So work still to do for Derry, but at the same time with Down, like, there's so many changes there in the team and players not there and different things. Newry's always a tough place to go to, but Derry just looked so comfortable and so it just looked like if that game went on for an extra hour, Derry still would have won it quite comfortably. So yeah, it'd be a tough one for Down, and in all honesty, in Galway, like, considering how well they obviously played against Meath and how, like, they blew them away. Like, you would fancy Galway. Like, they definitely looked, from looking at the highlights on Allianz League Sunday anyway, they looked somewhat back to maybe their sort of pre-pandemic form in some respects, and with some of the under-20s breaking into the first team as well. Like, Galway might be a team that maybe goes under the radar a little bit this year.
They definitely can, yeah. And even Donegal were Division 2 with 2014. So it's and reached all the final, beat Dublin, of course. So it's no particular bad thing to just go down to Division 2 and gain a bit of confidence. It looked that way for Galway, and I suppose Galway to win this game pretty comfortably anyway. And the next game after that is a bit of interest from my part here. Cork against Clare, Parky Queeve. Again, not live, but I will be hopefully going to that game and showing some coverage of my own on Instagram, etc. But this is a crucial game for both sides, because if Cork lose this and Clare win, like, if Clare win this game, there could be promotion on the cards here.
Yeah, they really could. Like, and like, it is an interesting one with Clare. All right, like, I know some people sometimes maybe say, maybe Clare are up there for promotion, and then there's some other people who think maybe they're around by relegation. Like, and I don't think Clare will get relegated this year, but I just think it'll be very tough for them to be up there battling for promotion. But, like, generally, averagely speaking, they've always kind of finished around the 5th or 6th area, really, when they've been in Division 2. Like, obviously last year they did a brilliant year and pushed Mayo all the way. So it's a hard one to know with Clare, and going away against a Cork team that definitely, from what I heard, was in a bit of disarray, obviously, against Roscommon, and they've had a couple of players opting out there, like Mark Collins, and Luke Connolly isn't in there, Rory Dean as well. So there might be an opportunity for Clare to turn up there and beat Cork. And Clare usually had a good record against Cork there for a couple of years. And even last year, although Cork won the game by a point, it kind of felt like it was Clare who won the game, because obviously there was score difference involved for who finished in the top two and whatnot. So yeah, a big opportunity for Clare. It's a hard one to know. And yeah, like you'd have a sneaky feeling that Clare might just turn Cork over there.
I definitely have a sneaky feeling myself. Like Clare, they seemed very good against Offaly, especially in the second half. And Cork, well, if Cork have the Bars lads back, there could be a chance. But even then, like I see them against Kilcoo, they looked out on their feet. So I'm not sure will they even come back into the team. But there might be a fair few changes from the game against Roscommon, and should be a very interesting encounter. And speaking of Roscommon, they're going to Meath now. It's Roscommon started well. Meath started absolutely dreadfully. They didn't score at all in the first half against Galway. I know Galway were superb and all that, but still a pretty bad take on Meath there. Do you think the camp is in kind of disarray after the Andy McAtee drama last year, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, it's hard to know, like, because they gave a really good battle against the Dubs, obviously, in that Leinster semi-final. And you felt like, all right, there's definitely something there, all right, there's definitely talent, there's definitely players. And I feel like Meath fans have kind of been banging on the drum for quite a while over the last couple of years in terms of the young players coming through, like Matthew Costello and Jordan Morris and Cathal Hickey. And like they've a good sort of young amount of players coming through. And obviously a great buzz in Meath last year, given the success of the ladies and the minors as well. But it was strange, like, I don't think it's no shame in losing to Galway, but yeah, the way they played was, from what I heard, just dreadful. Like I think they missed 14 chances or something like that before they eventually scored on the 45th minute. And this isn't the first time we've seen that from Meath as well. Like you think to the two Leinster finals, 2019 and 2020 against Dublin, where they were just all over the place in the first half and blown away and gave themselves way much to do. Like I remember 2019, I think they finished the day with 4 points. So like it is becoming a common occurrence really for Andy McAtee. Kildare last year as well. Like they do, the Longford defeat back in 2018, so many inconsistent performances and so many times that they don't turn up. And like looking at how Roscommon dispatched of Cork there, like, I mean, Roscommon are missing a lot of players there as well. So there is a chance here for me to turn Roscommon over. So it's gonna be an interesting one.
Should be definitely, and could be a promotion challenging game there. And I suppose lastly, we spoke about Derry earlier. They're going to Tullamore this weekend to play Offaly. Like Offaly, it's a hard one to judge. They actually performed well enough in the first few minutes from what it was here against Clare, and then they totally fell apart and Clare took control. Like you think Derry will win this game going to Tullamore?
Yeah, I think so. Like I'd imagine so. Like Offaly obviously missing the likes of Keane Farrell in there, and it looked like a commanding enough victory for Clare from what I heard anyway. Like finishing the game winning by 8 points. So like I think they were 5 points to 1 up early on, and then Clare just came back and completely steamrolled them and ran away with it. So yeah, like it's a tough one for Offaly. Like they're missing a lot of players, and they're probably in Division 2 maybe at the wrong time. In many ways, and maybe like I feel like if they go back to Division 3 next year, you could see them being back up again in Division 2, and they maybe being a little bit better, and maybe their players will be a bit more experienced and have more game time by then. So it's going to be a tough one. Like as I was saying, Derry didn't look great against Down, but I think the fixture list really suits them. Like they play Cork after this as well, which you could probably see them winning. So I think listening to Rory Gallagher as well, after in his post-match interview against Down, he said openly, like we're going for promotion, like that's the aim. So if they are going for promotion and they're serious about promotion, they'd have to really take the 2 points here in Tullamore.
Yeah, again, should be an interesting game seeing how Offaly perform. It should be a very interesting encounter. And Division 2, it didn't seem to be competitive last weekend, but it will be competitive in the next few weeks, I'm sure. And moving on to Division 3 just briefly as well, Antrim against Limerick, Laois against Westmeath, Longford against Louth, and Wicklow against Fermanagh. The game that intrigues me here is Antrim against Limerick, because Antrim were absolutely superb on Saturday. They beat Fermanagh in the end by 9 points, which was surprising considering it was in Brewster Park. It was a very good performance by them. And even Limerick scoring 4-9 against Longford, despite the loss of the likes of Brian Fanning and Danny Neville. So Billy Lee seems to be working wonders. Like this could be a game to decide who goes up and who stays in Division 3 for another year.
Yeah, it could be like Enda McGinley's win there over Fermanagh, like a 9-point victory. It was definitely a result that was a big surprise. And maybe it wouldn't have been a big surprise if Antrim maybe nicked it by a point, but the fact that they went to Brewster Park and won as convincingly as they did was a big surprise. Like when you look at Fermanagh, usually at Brewster Park, make life so difficult. They really get in the faces and they're a strong physical team. And you looked at what they done against Cavan last year. So it was a big surprise in many ways. And interesting enough, like the last time Antrim and Limerick played each other, I remember Antrim won this by like 18 or 19 points. It was a bizarre scoreline just right before the pandemic in 2020. So like Antrim will be going into this with a lot of confidence, and maybe they might promotion, but I don't know, like it's a hard one to call in many ways. Like Limerick probably do rely on goals quite a lot, and I'm sure Enda McGinley will probably have a game plan for that. But I'd have a sneaky feeling that Antrim at Corrigan Park might be able to get that victory there and march on, and potentially be in a bit of a promotion race.
Will be a brilliant achievement for Antrim to go up to Division 2 straight away from Division 4 and then show what a brilliant job Enda McGinley is doing with the team. And I suppose the other 3 games, Laois, Westmeath, Longford, Louth, Wicklow, Fermanagh, any thoughts on them?
Yeah, I think Westmeath should have enough to overturn Laois. Like it was a good victory for Laois against Louth. Like I fancied Louth to win that game, but I think Laois are probably coming in to Division 3 probably in a better place than I expected. Like they looked very good in the O'Byrne Cup. So that would be a very interesting game as well. Like you could be looking at 2 potential promotion teams in there as well. And Wicklow Fermanagh, like Wicklow gave Westmeath a very good run for their money last weekend, and we're actually ahead for different parts of that game. So if they could beat Fermanagh, I think that would be a big statement as well. But I do expect Fermanagh to bounce back and win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Division 3 seems to be as competitive as Division 2 this year, and we're definitely looking forward to them weekend games, even though we can't see them. I suppose moving on to Division 4, and a few interesting games: London, Watford, Sligo, Carlow, Cavan against Wexford, and Tipperary against Leitrim. Some very interesting teams here, considering London won on Saturday night against Carlow against all the odds. Superb achievement from them. The game might be focused on those Cavan against Wexford. I know it's Cavan again this week, but seeing as Wexford, I'd had them as promotion challengers, and if they lose this game, they're under huge pressure.
Yeah, they definitely are. Like I suppose from a Wexford point of view, I'd imagine it was disappointing enough losing to Sligo. Like it was only a 2-point game, and I know Wexford beat Sligo in that Division 4 Shield game last year. So yeah, it's a big game, and going away to Cavan as well, it's going to be tough. And I don't really see Wexford winning that game. Like I think Cavan should definitely have enough there. Like Paddy Lynch has supposedly been a great addition to the team and was very good against Leitrim. Raymond Galligan, superb as well. Like so, yeah, I'd fancy Cavan and Mickey Graham's men to win that game. Like that should be an interesting one, and obviously a word on London as well. Like it was a superb achievement to come from 10 points down, and yeah, like it's kind of mad. Like I think a lot of people didn't really give London or Waterford much of a chance to potentially be in a promotion race, but one of them is going to win this weekend, potentially a draw. Maybe they'll both be on, London will be on 3 points potentially and be up there. So it's a huge game. And I know a few people commented on one of my recent YouTube videos there just about London. And they were saying there's a couple of Kerry players in there and a lot of very good homegrown players. So yeah, London could really be a surprise team this year. And if they could turn over Waterford, that would be another huge achievement. And I mean, I don't think they will get promoted, but the fact that we're even mentioning them in a potential promotion race, it's a huge achievement.
It's an absolute superb achievement. Even I, on the podcast earlier, I think in 2021, I was chatting to Harvey Allen, who's a big London fan, actually a homegrown London fan, and he wants to play for London in the future. It's absolutely brilliant to see that, and to see them beat Carlow last weekend and potentially Watford. They could be on 4 points after 2 games. Superb, and well done to all of London there. And Division 4 should be another interesting division indeed.